Aziz, and you're watching A News Weekend. Here are the headlines. Pope Francis is in critical condition after health worsens, Vatican says. 4 candidates hope to be Germany's next leader in Sunday's election. Israel holds off prisoner release and demands Hamas meet conditions as Israelis call for the return of all hostages. The Vatican says Pope Francis' health had worsened in the past 24 hours, calling his condition critical for the first time. The 88-year-old suffering from double pneumonia requires supplemental oxygen and blood transfusions. Despite spending the day in a chair, he is more unwell than before. The Pope was hospitalized on February 14th after days of breathing difficulties. Priests, nuns, and devout civilians gathered outside Rome's Gemelli Hospital in prayer for Pope Francis. Germany holds snap elections on Sunday, with polls now open across the country. Over 59 million eligible voters are casting their ballots to choose 630 members of the lower house of parliament, the Bundestag. This election follows the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition last November over a dispute about budget spending. 4 main contenders are competing for leadership: Chancellor Scholz, opposition leader Friedrich Merz, Vice Chancellor Robert Habeck, and Alternative for Germany's Alice Weidel. The Conservative Christian Democratic Union and Christian Social Union Alliance tops the polls at about 30%, with the far-right AfD standing at 20%. Exit poll results are expected late Monday, with final results within a week. Thousands of Bulgarians protested in Sofia against the country's plan to adopt the euro. The demonstration, led by the Revival Party, escalated near the European Union Mission building.
The protest took place in Sofia, organised by the Nationalist Revival Party, which opposes Bulgaria's switch from the lev to the euro. The demonstrators fear that adopting the euro will lead to price hikes, similar to what happened in Croatia last year. The rally began in front of Bulgaria's central bank before moving towards the EU mission. Some protesters threw red paint, firecrackers and Molotov cocktails, briefly setting the front door on fire before police intervened. Authorities say around 10 officers sustained minor injuries and 6 people were detained. The government condemned the incident, calling attacks on institutions unacceptable and against the rule of law.
We don't want Bulgarian financial independence to be destroyed. We want to keep the Bulgarian lev. At this moment, we're facing a simple choice: freedom or euro. There is no other choice. We are here to defend our freedom.
Bulgaria's government, which took office last month, has reaffirmed its commitment to adopting the euro next year, despite ongoing public debate.
Thousands of Serbian students are taking to the streets in one of the largest protests the government has faced in recent years. They are demanding justice for a tragic railway disaster and calling for an end to corruption. Demonstrations continue in large-scale protests in the town of Vršac.
In Serbia, thousands of people flooded the streets and began their 90-kilometer march from Zrenjanin. Various sectors, including teachers, farmers and workers, have joined the movement, rallied against corruption and demanded change in the Balkan nation. Demonstrators are calling for accountability for the Novi Sad train station collapse 3 months ago, which killed 15 people. Many Serbians blame government for the tragedy.
The message is that we are free thinkers, that we have the right to shape the country we live in. We don't live under them, we live with them. They are not above us, and they never will be, as long as we stand together, unafraid. As long as fear is extinguished, we can achieve this, and I believe we will push through.
The message is unity, and we've already accomplished that. In every village we passed through, we were welcomed with open arms. These people gave us the energy to keep going.
energiju kako bi stigli do ovde.
Despite the growing unrest, the Serbian government has dismissed allegations of corruption and pledged to launch an anti-corruption campaign.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has reaffirmed his commitment to strengthening the military. Putin stated the need for troops in Ukraine is a top priority for Russia's long-term defense objectives. This message was delivered on Russia's annual Defender of the Fatherland Day. With Russia's defense strategy remaining steadfast, the Russian leader pledged to enhance the combat potential of the army and navy by utilizing modern weapons. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a major press conference on Sunday to summarize the frontline situation. At the Conservative Political Action Conference, U.S. President Donald Trump emphasized his approach to the ongoing war in Ukraine, highlighting the U.S. financial involvement and his efforts to recoup military aid.
During a speech at a conservative gathering in National Harbor, Maryland, U.S. President Donald Trump shared that the United States is negotiating with Ukraine to secure financial returns on the billions spent on military support. He criticized the previous administration's handling of the situation, pointing out that while Europe received loans for their assistance, the U.S. provided direct aid without expecting repayment. Trump expressed confidence that a resolution to the conflict is possible, stating he's been in talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He also noted his administration's ongoing efforts to tackle government waste and fraud. According to Trump, the United States is close to an agreement with Ukraine on sharing revenue from Ukrainian minerals as part of efforts to end the war in Ukraine.
So we're getting our money back. We're going to get our money back because it's not fair. It's just not fair. And we will see. But I think we're pretty close to a deal, and we better be close to a deal.
He said the United States is asking for rare earth minerals and oil. Trump's speech focused on securing a deal that could help the U.S. recover its financial contributions and bring the conflict in Ukraine to an end.
The Trump administration faces a packed foreign policy agenda, but one critical region often overlooked is Central Asia. At the heart of this region lies the Caspian Sea, rich in energy resources and geopolitical importance.
The Caspian Sea region is a global energy powerhouse, home to vast reserves of oil and natural gas, according to an article published by the Hudson Institute. Despite its strategic significance, US engagement in Central Asia has been inconsistent. The Caspian Sea, bordered by Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Russia and Iran, is a crucial geopolitical and economic hub, offering vast energy resources and serving as a key transit corridor for Eurasian commerce. Experts suggest that the US should prioritize energy cooperation in Central Asia to strengthen global supply chains and reduce European reliance on Russian energy. One key project, the Trans-Caspian Gas Pipeline, could be a game changer, linking Turkmenistan's natural gas reserves to European markets. By facilitating alternative energy routes, the US can help Caspian nations reduce their dependence on Russia and China while enhancing global energy security. As the Trump administration shapes its foreign policy, energy and trade cooperation with Central Asia could play a pivotal role in strengthening regional stability. If Washington aims to compete effectively in an era of great power rivalry, it cannot afford to neglect this crucial region, as the article highlights.
The United States Agency for International Development has positioned itself as a promoter of democracy and humanitarian aid, but its role in the post-Soviet region is controversial. Recent actions under the Trump administration have raised questions about its influence. While some view U.S. aid as a development tool, others see it as a means of advancing U.S. geopolitical interests by funding opposition movements and interfering in foreign affairs. Our report investigates U.S. aid's activities in this region, focusing on its financial allocations, political influence, and the backlash it faces.
Since its establishment in 1961, USAID has operated under the banner of promoting democracy, economic development, and human rights. However, its actions in post-Soviet states have often led to accusations of political interference. Critics argue that instead of fostering neutral development, USAID has selectively funded initiatives that align with Washington's strategic interests, particularly in countries where US influence is contested. USAID's future remains uncertain under the new Trump administration. The agency has faced intense scrutiny, with President Donald Trump accusing it of advancing a radical left agenda. His administration has moved to suspend and restructure the agency, reducing its workforce from 10,000 to just 290 employees. The agency's headquarters have been dismantled and its website taken offline. Tech entrepreneur and senior advisor to Donald Trump, Elon Musk, a vocal advocate of budget cuts, has publicly called USAID a criminal organization, arguing that it has operated beyond its stated mandate. Yet legal challenges have stalled the full dissolution of USAID, with US federal judges questioning the administration's authority to completely shut down its operations. Over the past 3 decades, USAID has played a significant role in the post-Soviet region, directing billions of dollars into democracy promotion, media development, and civil society initiatives. But many governments in the region have accused the agency of using financial aid as a means to exert political influence. According to official data, USAID's funding allocations in the region have varied widely. Azerbaijan, $450 million, focused on media support, NGOs, and economic reforms. Georgia, $1.8 billion, directed at democratic reforms, judicial restructuring, and energy security. Armenia, $3.3 billion, largely for humanitarian aid and strengthening civil society. Ukraine, over $3 billion before 2022, with an additional $16.6 billion granted in 2023 following the escalation of the war with Russia. Moldova, $2.6 billion, primarily for electoral reforms and European integration efforts. Despite its declared mission, USAID's activities have led to tensions with host governments. Several states have either expelled the agency or significantly curtailed its operations. Russia, 2012. USAID was banned for allegedly financing opposition groups and meddling in internal politics. Belarus, 2003. The government expelled the agency, accusing it of funding anti-government protests. Uzbekistan, 2005. Following the Andijan unrest, USAID was forced to leave after being blamed for fueling instability. Turkmenistan, USAID's presence has remained marginal due to strict government controls. Azerbaijan, 2024. USAID's operations were terminated amid allegations of anti-government activities and biased approaches to post-conflict reconstruction efforts. USAID's involvement in political transitions has been widely debated. In several instances, its funding has been linked to opposition movements that have reshaped governments. Ukraine, 2014. Accusations of USAID financing the Maidan protests that led to a pro-Western government. Georgia, 2003. USAID-backed NGOs played a key role in the Rose Revolution. Armenia, 2018, claims that USAID-funded organizations helped pave the way for Nikol Pashinyan's rise to power. Governments in the region have increasingly pushed back against USAID's influence, arguing that the agency prioritizes political engineering over genuine development aid. Under President Joe Biden, USAID saw an unprecedented expansion, with its budget reaching a historic high of $74 billion in 2022. With Trump's return to power, USAID's future hangs in the balance. The agency faces an existential crisis as the administration seeks to either dismantle it or fundamentally reshape its operations. However, entrenched legal and bureaucratic obstacles make its outright closure unlikely in the near term. At the same time, USAID's role in the post-Soviet space remains controversial. While some hail its contributions to democratic development, others see it as an extension of US geopolitical strategy, one that is increasingly unwelcome in several nations. As USAID navigates these challenges, the question remains: will it continue as Washington's soft power tool, or will it be reined in under the new administration?
Syria's new authorities will hold a national dialogue conference starting on February 25th to discuss a new path for the nation after the overthrow of former leader Bashar al-Assad. Holding the conference has been a key pledge of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group, which took control of Damascus in December 2024. About 4,000 people across Syria have been consulted to gather views that would help shape the constitutional declaration. The conference is scheduled for 2 days, and a new government is expected to be formed next month. In Tel Aviv, thousands of protesters have gathered to demand the release of the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza. This comes as Hamas has freed the final group of living hostages under the first phase of the ceasefire agreement with Israel.
Thousands of Israelis have gathered in Tel Aviv to demand the return of all remaining hostages in Gaza. On Saturday, Hamas released the last 6 hostages out of the 33 meant to be released in the first phase of the ceasefire deal with Israel. More than 60 Israeli captives, less than half of whom are believed to be alive, remain in Gaza. Now these demonstrators call on the Defense Ministry, insisting that the remaining hostages be returned together rather than in phases.
It is absolutely terrible that it hasn't been decided already to release all of them, no matter what's the price, because anyway we are paying a high price.
It's very frustrated. I want them all to be in one time, in one piece, and not every Saturday 3 or 4, and it's very frustrating.
Under the ceasefire deal mediated by Qatar and Egypt, the remaining Israeli hostages are due to be released under the 3-phase agreement. However, the anxiety of many is deepened as both Israel and Hamas continue to blame each other for violating the terms of the truce.
Meanwhile, Israel says that it has delayed the release of hundreds of Palestinian detainees due to be released on Saturday. In a statement by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, Israel says the delay comes as it awaits assurance from Hamas regarding the end of ceremonies during the handover of Israeli hostages. More than 600 Palestinian detainees had been scheduled for release as part of a ceasefire for the exchange of 6 Israeli hostages who were freed by Hamas. Tens of thousands of people have gathered in Beirut for the funeral of Hezbollah leaders Hassan Nasrallah and Hashem Safieddin, who were killed last year by Israeli airstrikes.
Tens of thousands of people have gathered in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, for the funeral ceremony of Hezbollah leaders Hassan Nasrallah and Hashem Safieddin. Both Nasrallah and Safieddin were killed by Israeli airstrikes last year. Nasrallah was the group's leader for more than 30 years and one of its founders, having wide influence among Iran-backed groups in the region. His influence gained him the respect of many who have traveled from afar to pay their final respects.
We are coming to pay tribute to Sayed in his funeral to his final resting place. We are here because of him.
Nasrallah's death dealt a major blow to Hezbollah during a challenging period, forcing the group to conduct a temporary burial in accordance with religious tradition. However, a decision to hold a grand funeral procession has been made. The funeral is believed to be Lebanon's largest in 2 decades.
Heavy snowfall continues along the Sea of Japan coast, covering streets and buildings in deep snow. More snow is expected in the coming days. In Niigata Prefecture, northern Japan, the surrounding areas are buried under thick snow. In Onuma City, snow has reached 382 centimeters, according to Japan's public broadcaster, NHK. The Japan Meteorological Agency has issued warnings in several regions, urging people to prepare for traffic delays and the risk of accidents caused by heavy snow. Thousands of well-wishers gathered at the Imperial Palace as Japan's Emperor Naruhito celebrated his 65th birthday. In a speech to the public, Naruhito offered his condolences to those who have died due to the recent heavy snowfall in northern Japan. Around 18,000 well-wishers gathered in the morning sessions to greet the imperial family. Naruhito was joined by his wife, Empress Masako, his daughter Aiko, as well as his brother, Crown Prince Akishino. Escalating violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo pressures neighboring Burundi, as clashes between armed groups and government forces continue to displace thousands of civilians. Burundi is struggling to manage the growing amount of refugees crossing its border in search of safety.
The United Nations reports that over 40,000 people have fled to Burundi in the past 2 weeks to escape fighting, as the M23 rebel group seizes control of the two largest cities in eastern Congo, raising concerns of a broader conflict. According to Brigitte Mukanga-Eno, the UNHCR representative in Burundi, more than 9,000 individuals crossed into the country in a single day last week.
This kind of large influx is really the first time in many years for Burundi. The last one was in the early 2000s. So everyone is overwhelmed, the government, but also the humanitarian actors in the country. We are trying our best, but the people who are arriving are coming quite in very, very bad shape, particularly for those coming through the Rusizi River.
She also shared the story of a woman whose 2 children succumbed to exhaustion shortly after crossing the border into Burundi. According to the UN, some refugees have been displaced multiple times, arriving with injuries or health issues. The UNHCR plans to relocate them from temporary shelters, including an open-air stadium, schools and churches, to a designated area where they can receive humanitarian aid. Additionally, the agency has launched an emergency appeal for funding to support a possible surge in refugee arrivals.
China's private businesses are turning to artificial intelligence and the low-altitude economy to cut costs and boost efficiency. From retail to manufacturing, companies are investing in new technologies to stay competitive.
The rapid advancements in AI are transforming China's private sector. With AI applications becoming more affordable, companies are using the technology to streamline operations and reduce labour costs.
Of course, I'd like to fully embrace AI. We have already laid a solid foundation in utilising AI technology for clearing goods, both online and offline, managing inventory and forecasting orders. Large language models have made significant breakthroughs in managing the entire supply chain, including nighttime sales and eliminating the need for night shift personnel.
Beyond AI, private companies are investing in the low-altitude economy. Businesses like ZAL Holding Co. are developing light aircraft and airships, with production expected to start in 2025. At the same time, manufacturing firms are expanding globally, targeting markets in Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East and Africa.
Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East and Africa are all growth markets. Going overseas requires achieving synergy within the industrial chain and forming complementary, coordinated development with the industries of host countries. We should explore overseas markets through collaboration, leveraging each other's strengths for mutual benefit.
China's private sector continues to evolve, using innovation and international expansion to drive future growth.
That's all we have for now from Baku. Thank you for tuning in and keep watching A News.